Perfect.
We're on.
Okay. Good morning all and welcome. I'm Mark Fletcher from the Wimmera Development Association, and I'd firstly like to acknowledge that this event is being held on the traditional lands of the Watchabolek, the Jardwa, the Jardwajali and the Wagaya and Japagolt people, and I pay respects to their elders both past, present and emerging. Good morning everyone, and thank you for your attendance. Welcome to the first of the webinar series for Retrain the Retail Revolution with the Retail Doctor. I'd like to acknowledge that this program is being brought to you by the Wimmera Development Association in partnership with Wimmera Business Centre, with funding assistance from the State Government of Victoria. I'd also like to recognise our promotional partner Ace Radio for their assistance in promoting this event across the region. So the Retail Doctor Group, we've had a little bit to do with Brian in the past with some work across the region, and I'm really excited that Wimmera Development Association and has been able to engage to bring someone of this calibre to the region and see what we can learn over the next few weeks with these webinars. So Brian, as the principal and founder of the Retail Doctor Group in the Australasian and Asian marketplace, Brian brings considerable senior experience gained in the specialty retailing, franchise, shopping centre sectors through line management, consulting and advisory roles. He has successfully led change teams in multi-channel retail arenas and has been instrumental in the development and implementation of many notable integrated retail channel strategies. Brian has also successfully advised and operated on boards and associations in retail strategy and deployment. Brian's a featured economist for Inside Retailing and Smart Company and the contributing author of ongoing articles for publications such as BRW and Australian Business Solutions, to name a few. Brian is the leading media commentator on retail issues, regularly appearing on ABC, Channel 9 News, A Current Affair, Today Tonight. And draws on his 20 years of experience in retail, senior management with leading retailers. In 2005, Brian founded the Retail Doctor Group. The Retail Doctor Group specialises in the development and transformation of retail strategy into increased asset performance, increasing client sustainable differentiation models, underpinned with independent systems and frameworks, increasing revenue and profitability. And these are a few of the areas that are focused through the Retail Doctor Group's business fitness programs, which this is part of. So that all said, I would like to hand over to Brian to take us through webinar 1 of 7. So good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Mark. Good morning, everyone. Really great to be with you. I think I'm going to pass a shorter bio over next time, Mark, but well done. I appreciate it. Yes, what I wanted to do today and through this series with you is talk about what we call fit for business retail. And this is gained over many years, as Mark's been kind to say, in working with retailers and really understanding, and coming from retail, and really understanding what it is that makes high performance retail. And so what we'll do today is start to look at this webinar series that we're involved in. We're delighted to bring it to you, called the Fit for Business virtual webinar series. And today I'm going to start and really talk about strategy, particularly, not in a complex way, but in a simple way, and then through some of the steps. And in fact, let's have a look at the program. So what are we really trying to do here? We recognize that retail is changing. We realize that in the regional parts of Australia as well, it's changing. We know, for example, that online retail nationally is currently averaging at about 14% of overall retail. Physical retail is still the dominant part. By that I mean shop retail. So we're going to talk a little bit about being able to compete and grow increasingly. As consumers, we're spending an average of 4 hours a day on our smartphones. We are researchers, disseminators, viewers of information. So we know more now than we ever knew about what we want to buy, and we have more availability to it. And that makes it, at one level, more competitive, but at another level, great opportunity. And of course, we're going to talk about the good things that never change. And we're going to really leave you today and through the program with what we're calling the business fitness tips. So let's talk a little bit about today and then touch on the next 6 webinars that follow. Webinar 2, I beg your pardon, Webinar 1 is really around building our brand, building our unique point of difference, having a little bit of a simple game plan. And I touched on this concept of integrated retail, having an online presence. And the fact is, we can't ignore the growth of online retail, but we need to do it in a way that brings people ideally to our physical location, because the two do work together. And of course, having an online channel. We need to talk about what's involved there, a product mix, a range of topics. And of course, social media. Every 2 seconds, someone in the world is joining Facebook. And the role of social media, we've moved largely from, and whilst I'll talk about e-commerce, we've moved largely from desktop research into mobile commerce, and we're about to move into social commerce. And so having a really good story is important here. Now, some of us are going to say, well, all this just means more work for me. And at one level it does, because it's gotten a little bit more complex no matter where we are in the world. But we're going to take you through the steps as I've touched on. Webinar 2 is all about really building show-stopping visual impact, visual merchandising, how to make good physical retail space work, customer navigation. 75% of your customers will walk into the left-hand side of your shop when they walk in. What are our hot spots, warm spots, cold spots, how we're laying this through, and then how to build sales and service within your business. And that's really around our people. Oh, by the way, towards the end of this or at any stage, if you've got questions, please put them on the chat, and we'll certainly create time for that to be addressed. Webinar 3 is really the fact that when retailers have issues around profitability, the main driver and one of the main issues is around cash flow. And category cardio is all about how to manage cash flow, how to manage inventory, how to merchandise manage, and some of the inventory metrics that we should be and probably are familiar with, and how to refine those. So we'll introduce topics such as stock turns, sell through, some of those metrics, the linkage to category management. I've certainly learned more about inventory management over the years than I ever did running a retail business. So we're going to share those tips with you. Webinar 4 is physical. It's all about our numbers. It's about our cash flow, our margins, how to create better margins, how to create better sell-through, how to record the numbers, what trends to look for. And ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, every business ultimately is for sale. And every business, if you take that view, is all about driving the worth or the value of the business. So we're going to talk about how you would drive your business value. And we'll share benchmarks, sales per square meter, gross margin. And if you've got a category, let us know that you're interested in the profits. We'll show you how to drive those numbers. Webinar 5, we're going to talk about building what we're calling the omni-channel offer, which I've alluded to. And we're going to talk about building this point of difference. We'll talk about how our people play that part, local marketing, training, coaching, and so forth. And then webinar 6 is winning in the grand final of retail. Very much about local marketing, planning for events, how to make your hero lines work. And then we want to bring it all together for webinar 7, which is all around building value and taking a lot of these steps and bringing them all to conclusion. Because ultimately, our role today and through this series is to help you build a more valuable business. And talk a little bit about COVID, of course. I can't not talk about COVID. COVID has been the great catalyst for change. And in fact, the acceleration of COVID has been most marked in the growth of online. Pre-COVID, retail online was an average of 9% of sales. Now it's currently up around 13, 14% on average. Some categories are much higher. And so it's compelled us to have an online offer and to be good online as well as physical retailers. And of course, it also talked to us about the standards that our customers want going through COVID when they are able to visit your shops. And when they're able to visit your shop, that you've got good hygiene standards, good signage, clear social distancing, and you know only too well that mitigating that concern is a very important aspect. We'll talk today about building our brand, setting up for success, the website I touched on, social media, and that'll get us started into the program. One thing I would say over the years of working with retailers, there's this thing called, and it's not even on the slides, there's a thing called attitude. And what I've found, and we have found over the years, that if your attitude to learn, if your attitude to grow, if you want to make more money, if you want to grow your business, and you're a student of retail, you invariably do better than people who think, well, I kind of know this stuff. And so what I'm hoping through this series, that some of this you obviously already know, but if it acts as a refresher, if you get 2 or 3 points each session that help you grow your business, then our job will be well done. So keep an open mind, keep a positive attitude, and let's kick off. Imagine this, ladies and gentlemen. You pack the car, you're heading off for a holiday, but you don't know what the destination is. Well, that never happens. We always know what our destination is in retail. Well, ideally we do, and we certainly always know when we're going on a holiday, where we're going to. So one of the things I often encourage people to do is to take a step back from their business. Take a step back, have a bit of a look at their business from the outside in. And that's as simple as sitting outside your shop, having a look at it, and getting a bit of a view of what that business is, what its uniqueness is, but also where are you taking the business? Now, we're not advocating great complex business plans, but we're certainly advocating 2 or 3 smart goals around your business. It might be that you want to grow your sales by 5%. It might be that you want to grow your margin by 2%, your gross profit. It might be that you want to have a little more time out of the business to focus on building other aspects. One day, when I come along to buy your business, I'm going to want to look for a few things. I'm going to want to look for a unique point of difference, a game plan, interdependence and independence from you as the owner. That is, I can come in and run the business. I'm going to want you to be differentiated in your product mix or your uniqueness. I'm going to want you to ideally have positive cash flows, a database that we'll talk about, and I'm going to ultimately want to see where you've taken the business. Now, those factors drive the multiples for a buyer, and they're important to consider when you're thinking about your business. If, for example, I have a business where everyone is reliant on me 7 days a week, then it's very hard to sell that business ultimately. But if I have a business where I've got good game plan, uniqueness, some of the aspects we'll talk about today, and great people, and systems and processes as best you can, then you have a more valuable business for me to buy. At Physical, we'll talk about present value in buying and selling a business and future value. Here's what we know about customers, and this is increasingly the case, both regionally and in metro. One is that we're increasingly thinking about time and how we use time. And as a retailer, do you offer me time well saved? You're very convenient. Your online offer is super convenient. Your in-shop experience is convenient. You might even do deliveries. You probably have some sort of value add that saves me time. I'm going to pre-research you more often than not. We only have to look at the decline, if you like, in print media and see the movement into social media and see the movement online to see the way we research. Now, by the way, in terms of website visitation, for larger ticket purchases, and this applies to all ages, we're seeing a spiked growth in pre-research. Something like 90% plus of bigger ticket retail items are pre-researched. So the old days where we'd go to 2 or 3 shops in a certain category, say electrical, and we'd compare shop and so forth, are quickly dissipating to one of an environment in which we go online, we see what your offer is, and we absolutely go straight to you as the destination retailer. The third element is personalization. Now, it's interesting because when I'm out in regional Victoria and I meet some of the retailers, I realize that this is not personalization in sense of the great big databases or the huge Amazon machines. This is all about knowing who I am as a customer. And I think you guys do this better than anyone. It's the relationships. It's building the relationships. It's knowing your top 20 customers, your top 50 customers, knowing them by name, maybe knowing when their birthday is, maybe having a bit of a loyalty program. It's really focusing on keeping the customers you have. You see, in retail, you can always look for new customers, and that's important, but also sell more to the ones you have. And that's about building those deep relationships. Training your staff in product knowledge is super important. Employing people that are friendly with a great smile, and teaching you people, and we'll do a session on this, on asking those great questions that build personal relationships. The fourth trend we see is experiential. And for us, that means how many times are we changing our windows, keeping it fresh, moving our displays around? For us, it means how are we doing some interesting and fun things in the store around our displays and around our in-store VM and around our look of our shop that doesn't have to cost a lot of money, but keeps changing it up. And in many cases in regional Victoria, as it is in regional Australia, it's the large percentage of our customers are repeat customers. So we're going to try and make that journey a little bit more interesting for them. I'll quickly touch on retail results broadly. Now, I know I'm going to touch on the big players, but I want to give you a bit of a feel because we talked about COVID. In February, March last year, everyone was in great trepidation, as you recall. And everyone has gone through a difficult and challenging time. I'm the first to acknowledge that. But what has been interesting through the results side of this, or the lens, has been that many of our larger businesses and many retailers have done particularly well through this period. And what we found was, of course, that if you're in the travel or tourism business, it was terribly hard. But interestingly to see, businesses that were anyway engaged with home categories. And so as retailers, we're always thinking about the trends. We're always thinking about where is our opportunity here? And what can we move within our category mix, our product mix, to make ourselves more attractive to that circumstance? And part of being, whilst I talked about the capital A for attitude, part of the success of many retailers is their ability to adapt. The retailer who has umbrellas in their category and sees that it's going to rain in the next couple of days and puts umbrellas out the front. That's an example, equally relevant as these big retailers who've done particularly well in home-based categories. In January, nationally, retail sales comped 11% growth, a low cash rate, returning consumer confidence, caution with COVID, of course, and still tenterhooks about closures and so forth. But if I took JB Hi-Fi's results, 80% of their business was still done in physical stores, even with closures. And so the world is not going online, but online has a part to play. The last 12 months have shown us how consumers will spend, and retailers who are able to adapt, in this case into home-based categories, did particularly well. And as we learn and talk to each other more, you'll see me make comments that a retail shop is like a chessboard. And each category, you move up or down according to where you see opportunity. as these retailers have done. Now, I talked a little bit about stepping outside your shop, maybe taking a day away from the business. And I hope you do get a bit of breather from the business too. That's important. And asking yourself a question: what am I different in? What am I unique in? What does my business do that is hard to copy, easy enough to defend, and maybe even able to replicate? But certainly, what am I known for? If I'm a fashion shop, do I have a particular range or a particular brand that no one else has? If I'm a delicatessen, do I have a particular range of meats that no one else has? And one of the pieces that often brings us asunder is trying to be too many things to too many people. Sometimes I'll walk past a shop and I'll think, what business are you in? And that's not what we want to be. You know, we want to be great and known for something. And so always when I look at businesses, one of my initial questions is, do you have that plan? Are you building a business that ultimately is worth more than when you started it or bought it? And are you unique? You see, in this chart, we see that we've got the classic matrix. We've got specialist expertise and value add experience. And then below on the bottom axis, 6 o'clock if you like, we've got transaction, and at 9 o'clock we've got discounter. Now those discounters and transaction retailers are the big Kmarts and Targets of the world, if you like. They're the big box retailers. Their goal is to turn over a whole lot of stock at a lower gross profit, but at a much higher volume than the specialist. Now, when I walk along the high street, I'm surrounded by specialist retailers generally. And they're all about having curated, right range for the local market, right range of product and at the right quantities, and we'll come to that, and adding value to the experience. And so when you hear me talk about social media, for example, I'm going to be talking about what is our uniqueness that we're able to build a story, build a message, and communicate. And social media, catalogs, flyers, press, radio, TV are all important. What we need to do is to be considering what is our point of difference. Now, our point of difference is an interesting one because some people will say, oh, it's customer service, it's location. They're true, but they're easily, it's easy to copy that. Really, well, it's still hard work, but it can be copied. Where I look for difference and point of difference is around my brand and my brand offer, my product, my uniqueness of product, and they're two of the really key pieces. So like that fashion shop with the particular range or category of dresses or whatever it might be that no one else has. And what I'm known for is my uniqueness, my point of difference. And are we consistently delivering? You see, if we don't, we slip into that red circle called competitors. And if we're not careful, we get a little swallowed by the big discounter transaction retailers. And then we have an issue. And so what's our point of difference? How often do we go out and have a bit of a look around competitors? Ask our customers what they like. Look at our mix of business and see that our mix of business in sales is replicating our range story, our point of difference, our uniqueness. And particularly in the country, in regional Australia, it's fantastic. You've got such great customer data. Just asking customers what they think, what they see, and what they like about you. And conversely, how you can improve for them is important. So the third point here is really around what is our point of difference. And first impressions count. When I'm walking past your shop, I have 3 seconds to understand what it is you do. Nice. We'll talk about this in VM, but what is it that you do that's going to entice me to peel off from the street or the mall into your shop? And then how will you wow me? And some of the questions we'll ask later is about coaching of our people, training, because they are our brand as well. Every single transaction, as was written a while ago, is a moment of truth. It's all about your brand, how you stay close to it, how you keep those first impressions counting, and how you build that unique point of difference. Sometimes I'll walk past a shop and I'll think, this shop is tired. The owner's been at it 7 days a week for many years, battered by all sorts of things. So it is about taking a bit of time out. It's about having a great 2IC if you can. It's about refreshing, renewing. It's about taking each period and going, okay, what are my goals? What do we want to do with this business? Do I want to prepare it for sale? Do I want to grow my sales? Do I want to grow my margin? Well, things I've talked about. And what does your brand stand for in all this? Sometimes it can be as simple as grabbing a can of paint and giving it a paint job, giving it a bit of new fresh furniture if that's what it is, painting some fixtures, putting some new signs, give it a bit of a refresh. In the shopping center world, a refit, as they call it, is done every 3 to 5 years. If you've got shops in the high street that are older than 5 years and haven't seen a coat of paint, haven't been relaid, haven't been changed around, you're asking your customers to see the same thing every day. And we're in a world where they have more choice. And so part of that energizing in that attitude is refresh. It's amazing what it does. A good refit for a shop, generally speaking, should lift sales between 10 to 20% to get its return on capital. But I'm not advocating huge, big, expensive fit outs. We've just going through and still are involved in COVID. We still have caution out there. So it's the most appropriate for your shop. Do take that time to stand outside your shop and have a good look at it and say, what is my uniqueness? Are we fresh? Are we inviting? Do we look great? And are our people really on board with us? Are my staff motivated? Do my staff walk into the shop 5-10 minutes late occasionally or too many times? Am I slow to get the doors open in the morning? Do I look like, I used to work for this chap who used to say, every morning is showtime. Up, doors open and away we go. That takes energy. So do look after, another piece of this is looking after yourself as owners. Keep as fit as you can. Keep as balanced as you can. It can't be all about work. Keep fresh. And then it becomes a more interesting, particularly if you have goals and targets you need to achieve and you want your people involved. When I come back to the point of difference, this is all part of the point of difference. Have I got my point of difference looking really sharp in the store? Visual merchandise, if you're fashion, should be changing your front windows over anywhere between 45 to 50 times a year. Have I got less is more, powerful displays, and we'll talk about this. Have I got my story by categories? That is crisp, clear categories in my store. When I stand at the lease line of your shop, I should be able to know what you want me to sell, what you want me to buy, I beg your pardon. Your story by categories through the shop should have clear line of sight to the back of the shop, to the sides of the shop. I should be able to walk in a figure eight, basically. It should have good, strong impact. What I see in your windows, I see in the shop. If you have a website, and I trust you do, should be able to confidently advertise that on your windows, and on your website, confidently advertise your shop. But above all, take me on a journey and start me off with one question. What do you want me as the customer to buy from you that day, that visit? I can't not have this session with you today, ladies and gents, and talk a little bit about COVID. think I alluded to this earlier, that COVID's been the biggest accelerant in our lifetime. Technology is hastening at 10 times its previous pace. Technology that would have taken 5 years to develop is now taking 5 months. What does that mean for me in regional Victoria, for example? Well, what it means is that I can do business with customers anywhere in the world if I choose to. And geographic barriers in that sense are becoming geographic opportunities. And there are many great examples of retailers in country Australia busily shipping product off to the United States, Europe, and around the world. Australia Post is 200% plus increase in volume of parcels being delivered. Online has grown to the numbers that I've talked about. And in turn, we can do one of two things. We can have the attitude to say, how do I build this opportunity? How do I build this story? And how do I take advantage of this? Or I could take the attitude of hoping it goes away or ignoring it. On the latter, I do urge you not to ignore it. It is inevitable. It is with us now. Retail is done now, both in the physical store and online. And if you've got a business that creates a situation for me that I can sit on the couch and do business with you, time well saved, but I also like to visit you as well, time well spent, then you have the formula for successful retail. Well, this is just a little example out of the UK, and it's just to really give you a bit of an idea how retailers are adapting. This is just simply an inventory system allowing quarantine type holding pattern for clothing. Here's a queuing for Asda in the UK, where customers join a queue using their phone and remain in their car until it's their turn to shop. And the point is this: retailers around the world are adapting to COVID, or have adapted to COVID. They've changed their model to the trend, to the marketplace situation. If we do the same thing over and over and hope for a different result, we won't get that different result. So we need to be thinking about agility. And when you hear me talk about building our brand, building our story, our uniqueness, it's not uncommon to be spending 4 to 10 hours a week on marketing, building a website, having a social media story. It can be as high as 20 hours a week in some bigger businesses. You need to also think about, well, if I'm going to do all this, who's going to do it for me? How will I do it? Because I'm not advocating that Sunday afternoon you're sitting at the kitchen table, you're doing all your accounts, you're paying your suppliers, you're making sure there's cash flow, you're looking at your sales, and you're posting stuff on websites and social media. So thinking about who in the area has got good savvy skills in social media, who can help me on my website, and we'll talk about that today. Who can help build my online offer? How will I ship product out? That's really thinking, okay, what resources do I need? What do I need to focus on? And how do I oversee this? So the world is changing. And this is the paradigm. We grew up in retail, ladies and gentlemen, thinking how to bring the customer to the point of sale, to our shops. Now we think increasingly how to bring our point of sale to the customer. And there are retail businesses out there doing 40 to 45 to 50% of their sales online. And some might say, oh, well, that's pretty straightforward. Don't have a shop, just go online. Well, there's a direct relationship between having a physical brand, that is a shop, and having an online brand. And the two work together. There's all sorts of studies to show you the resonance and effect of that. And pure play online retail, unless you get to a certain scale, it's very hard to make money because the freight and return costs alone can be prohibitive. So you do need the mix of environments ideally. It took Amazon 14 years to make a profit. And you watch some of the bigger online businesses acquire one another and grow. And that's a lot to do with the rationale. And if any of you have not read an annotated version of The Art of War, I encourage you to do it. Because as the big get bigger, that book teaches us how to compete in the smaller to medium level, how to be really thinking about adaptation, staying close to customer, building relationship, which you do very well, and inviting customers to do more business with you. Because customers today can go online, can certainly build, and we'll talk about this further into the program, how to build loyalty programs, how to build customer relationship management programs. They can certainly buy from you or anyone else globally. The role of catalogs, the role of SMS, mobile, social media, but the heartland of your brand and your retail business, particularly for quite the vast foreseeable future, is your in-store experience. All these channels, in my eyes, should be complementary, supplementary channels to market, to your in-store experience. Now, if your in-store experience doesn't motivate me to get off the couch, then that's what we need to address. You know, a little bit of this piece where we would look at a retail offer in the paper. And by the way, classic radio and print media has still great value, and particularly in regional Australia. And we'd look at an ad and we'd grow aware, we'd gain our interest, we'd desire, we'd action, and we'd be in the shop buying. But now it's a new journey to purchase. And we are people who are on social media. We're researchers, that 4 hours a day. We share opinions, social proof. So it's important to ensure that social media reflects you well around ratings. If you ask and you think about the last time you went to a restaurant or you looked at a product online, what did you look at? Now, if we're in an audience here, a live audience, I'm sure you'd say, well, we looked at opinions. We looked at other people's point of view about our business. And we do. We are social opinion sharers, and that is exponential in growth. Social media, for example, has brutal transparency. People like or don't like, rate or don't rate. Faster live information. Everything's in real live time. We all have a little less time, so faster decision making. And there's more noise in the market. And that's why that cut through and that ability to cut through with a good, strong, unique message and point of difference and do it brilliantly is critical. Because now you see in the path to purchase, it's this kaleidoscope. We're researching, we're searching, we're updating, we're interacting, we're talking to people, we're looking at catalogs, we're going on TV, we're listening to the radio, we're doing all sorts of things. So building your community, your tribe of advocates, of followers, is more crucial than ever before, because we are a little bit, as consumers, a little more promiscuous now because we're able to shop around. So as promiscuous consumers, we shop around, we've got more information, more knowledge, and we'll move quickly if we're unhappy, or we see a better deal. So we're going to be right on our game as retailers. 80% of consumers interact with brands or products through digital. That's the smartphone. Before arriving. And I'm sure many of you could tell me of being in a shop where some customer has taken their phone out, showed them a competitive offer on the phone with a cheaper price and said, will you match? And so in this period and this time, as we start to introduce the program at the high level, thinking about the architecture of your business, I do encourage you to take a bit of a step up into the helicopter and look down at your business and look at it as a buyer would look at it and say, okay, have we got clear strategy? Have we got clear point of difference? Have we got uniqueness? Have we got a great message? What are we building that's compelling? Or are we slipping into all things to all people? And you know, as we go forward, all things change, but nothing changes in a sense too. And that is the physical relationship never changes. But how do you marry them together? For example, do you have click and collect if your business is relevant? for that. There's a lovely term that people use called ROPO, research online, purchase offline. How do you make it easier for your customers to do business? Home delivery, click and collect, which is ROPO. How do they do business, and what is the personality of your brand? Have you got a good CRM platform, customer relationship platform? Are you building a database? When you look at the top 5 companies in the world, that's changed dramatically from the 5 years prior, and look at the Googles, Facebooks, Amazons of this world. Globally, you see their valuation is predicated on data, having a strong database. And we will talk about how to set that up shortly. What really also in this communication of message is thinking through about what is local marketing. As we know, marketing is the management process that identifies, anticipates, and satisfies customer requirements profitably. There you are, there's a big formal piece. What it's really saying is identifies, anticipates, and satisfies. So it's forward thinking, having a plan. And so we like to have work with businesses have a simple marketing plan that sits under their business plan. And it's really talking about what is my marketing strategy? First of all, having a good view of your target customer is really important. And that idea that your customer is typically female, 35 to 45, or whatever that age may be. And this is the mix of product that we have for that customer. This is what we know about that customer. And this is what we know they like to buy and how they like to do business. We're going to bring that all into a promotional local marketing strategy. I remember many years ago, I was running a retail business and I was talking to another retailer who was in the tie business. And that business is no longer around really because we don't wear as many ties generally. But I remember asking him, saying, who is your target market? And he said, anyone with a neck. Well, we're no longer in those days. We are moving from the herd to the hunter. And so good retailers, fit retailers, are always looking at who is my target customer? What buying signals do they have? How will I refine my offer to them? How do I adapt? And how will I build them as loyal advocates to my business? And so here, for example, we see that in Australia and in Woomera, as a comparison very briefly, percentage of men is about the same, percentage of ladies is slightly down than the national average. But interestingly here, we see, as you would know, we start to grow above the national population in older people, 55 plus, and of course, our more mature residents. So now we're thinking about, okay, how do we value add to these people? What do they need in this stage of their lifestyle? What offer do we have? And we start to build this offer, if it's appropriate for us, to that difference in demographic into that segment. Or we might be a business that says our core market is 35 to 54-year-olds. It's a little bit lower than the national average, but we're going to go hard after that. This doesn't mean it's a mix of your business. It's just a general demographic snapshot. And the point is, it's trying to show us using good data, good intel, and there's plenty available through census, through councils, through some great people such as the association who will provide that data and start to help us build out our local marketing plan. And this is a classic piece, but the peas of the pie. For example, as I've touched on, have we got the right product? Have we got the right place, location, store, and online? Is our pricing strategy good? Are we good within our competitors? Do we hold a unique position? Are we able to charge more, if you like, by having good value add and buffering the effect on margin? Do we do strong promotions? Do we measure our promotions? Do we have some form of recall of promotion in the shop? How did you hear about us? And keeping a record on that. Excuse me. Our people. Are we coaching our people? You should be spending about 10 to 15 minutes, and that's all it really requires, each week, one-on-one with your people, and actually going through a coaching with them, having a look at the stats, seeing how they're going, testing them on product knowledge. And really, they're your biggest asset, as I've touched on, and they're a huge part of the marketing plan. You build this wonderful offer. It's all fantastic. I come to the store and I'm met by someone who's disinterested, frowning, and couldn't be bothered. All that investment falls away. And have I got good processes? So there's our P's of a business. And we'll have copies of this deck available as well. Place, a target market, our image, how we get the product to our shops quicker than our competitors, how we get it to our customers quicker. What's our local marketing campaign? Our visual merchandise I've talked on. Our product, have we got good, unique product? I've touched on that. Do we all know the feature and benefits of the product? Do we all have great value add around the product? Are we profitable? That's critical. And we'll talk about this in physical, the difference between prime margin and finished margin. Are we competitive? Are we checking our competitors? Are we a quality retailer? Have we got great quality product? The people piece, we'll talk about this in the program. Our capability, our efficiency, our effectiveness. How are we incentivizing them? Are we measuring customer service? Our processes, are we building our database? Do we have a good CRM system? Promotion. Have we got a local marketing campaign? We should probably be having somewhere between 10 and 12 campaigns that we orchestrate a year, ideally. And that can be as simple as leaflets, new product launches, VIP nights, launches and events, and inviting your database. When we look at Myer over the years, for all the issues that we talk about with Myer, department stores, about a third of their business comes from their loyalty program. Might even be a bit higher now. And let's not forget print media and radio, particularly in the markets you service. It still has great strike through and cut through. So it's part of the mix. And by the way, all these points in your marketing campaign need to talk to one another. So your social media talks to your website, talks to your shop, talks to your radio ad. Visit us here, do business here, come and see us. And above all, and I touched on this earlier, know your top customers. Know your top 50 or 100 or 150 customers. Have them on a database. Record significant events. And also, if you can, through a good database program, which we'll talk about in this program, have a good record of their purchase history. See what they buy. And that's when you're able to start to do some really simple predictive stuff. Brian comes into my shop. He bought this product over this period of time, this many repeats. That new product comes up, Brian gets a text or a phone call, even better, to tell me that it's ready if I want to come and have a look. So data, when we talk about CRM and business information systems, is important. And I remember saying this morning that if I was coming to buy your business or I was interested in buying your business, I would want to know how many active people on your database and how is it growing. So data is, while sales, if you like, are the oil of the business, there's no doubt that data is the currency of the business. I think we've touched on this, but do think about how we grow our communities. Whether you're running a shop in St. Albans or you're running Amazon, you're going to be concerning yourself with growing your loyalists, your customers, your advocates, and building that community, your tribe. So very briefly in the time remaining, just a few slides on how to set that website up. Many of you have an active website. Even if it's not trading, at least as a locational marker and an information source, and ideally pointing back to your store. That's a great step. The next piece we'll touch on now is about how to bring product into that mix. So just as we have a physical store strategy, it is important to have an e-commerce strategy and ideally marry them together. CRM and customer engagement, you can get a CRM module, if you like, for your business information system without being there next to you, but in general terms, for a couple of $1,000s. And you can attach that, and then that starts to build your customer relationship by getting data on people. That helps when you marry that to your mix of business to build your marketing strategy. Launching, of course, launching your online store. First of all, plenty of e-commerce website builders out there, plenty of referrals. Go online, look at ratings, talk to people. I'm sure the association would have some good information there. Find yourself, and most website builders use templates and certain languages that the website talks in, if you like. So it's all very, very available. Plenty of businesses do it. Figure out which best suits you. Start small, have capacity to grow the website. You should be able to get up and running for, you really should probably for around 5,000 to 8,000 as an entry level. Think of your domain name, your business name, your domain name, register that. It's all part of the process. And there's plenty of domain registration online sites. Have a bit of a play. I think we've registered something like 30 domain names over the years. They're cheap, relatively inexpensive, and you own it. And by the way, your brand should also be protected by having a trademark. That's an important element here, as is having domain name registration. I'm going to have to speed this up. The template I talked about, then start to add your products. Now, we're not advocating all products go online straight away. Just build a small range. Keep price parity between physical shop and online, ideally, so there's no great confusion to start you off. Set up your payment offers. There's plenty of companies that do that. Shopify come to mind. They'll help set up all the payment gateways so people can do business with you and pay in a new number of ways. Australia Post or whoever your shipping partner is, they'll have terms. Of course, the other option and supplementary option is to set up on a marketplace. Preview, test, start it off small, do a few products, start to build it out. And then you're up in business. You're an online retailer as well as a physical store retailer. So really that simple. Building social media. We do make a point about social media for all the reasons I've talked about. It's interesting, isn't it? In 2021, globally, there's 190 million emails sent. You sort of look through this, it's quite extraordinary. 764,000 hours of Netflix are watched around the world. Facebook in a minute has 1.3 million people logging in. And so it goes in the 60 seconds. It's this kaleidoscope of activity. So do be involved in social media. But again, always portray your uniqueness. It's a two-way street. It's a conversational piece. It's not a hard sell platform at all. It's building your tribe, your loyalists. Come back to think about what are my social media goals, like what are my business goals, which is one of the themes of this starting program. We've talked about identifying your audience and social media channels. Must seem like a bit of a Rubik's Cube. Just start with a couple. This is really just saying simply what I've said through the graph. Which social media, choosing the right platform. For example, on retail stores, I really quite like Pinterest is quite good, though probably not as good as Instagram. I like that. And particularly for images of shops, images of products and having stories. All channels can promote and sell a product or service. For our purpose, all channels work together to build our business. Facebook is obviously very popular. Instagram, this is what I was thinking of earlier. Show off your latest window, show off your latest product, show off your VIP nights, show off your events, use it as a platform to invite people. Oh, by the way, what I should have said earlier too, even starting on eBay and starting on some of the marketplaces that are available, Amazon and so forth, is also a start and can be done in addition to having your website. Twitter, for those who want to use Twitter, like Donald Trump was a huge fan of. Trending hashtags is always very important with Twitter. I like Pinterest, but it's probably been replaced by Instagram more. Certainly, people who are gurus in these two social media platforms will tell you the relative benefits. We use YouTube. I like YouTube, but it's a broader audience in that sense. This one's quite an old, it's a funny slide, this one. I like it because it's a little bit older, but it shows you what's nice about it. There's our fast response to feedback using Facebook. There's building the community, Facebook. And Lorna Jane were fantastic at this. And there we are integrated in store. So it gives you this example of how it all works together. So you're engaging with your customers across all channels, and it's proven that they will spend more money. Some of the studies we've seen out of the States show a multiplier of 4 times greater when they're engaged across your channels. Do set that campaign calendar up. Have a good copywriter too, by the way. There's plenty of good local copywriters in town or around the regions, and you can work with them online via email and build some nice copy that's compelling, certainly illustrates your point of difference. And then have a go. That's the attitude part. Have a go. It's amazing to see how the world has changed and how retailer is adapting. Evaluate, optimize, adapt, all these terms. The point, ladies and gentlemen, is that if we rely purely on a retail business in a shop that opens its shutters, closes its shutters, opens its shutters, and so on, and doesn't expand into these different channels and these different ways of connecting, then it will be anywhere between 10 to 25% worse off. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure if there's any questions. I'll ask Mark and Vanita in a moment. But in summary, for our first module together, I hope that you take a moment to reflect on what is your end game here. Do you want to sell the business for more than you acquired it for? Do you want to build and continue to build your market, uniqueness, your offer, the branding that we've talked about, the unique point of difference? How will you build increasing direct relationships with your customers, building your community? What is your most appropriate communication strategy to start this journey? How will you use websites, social media, and so forth? How will you resource it internally to do it? And then how will you measure it? How many of us are measuring sales per square meter, category mix, transaction numbers, database growth, social media visits, databases in social media, and so it goes. It is at one level quite a complex business now. At another level, great relationships, doing it the way it's always being done, and being outstanding retailers will never go away. So thank you very much for your time today, ladies and gentlemen. We've had a look at the building of strategy in the first module. We've certainly had a look at building through the COVID period. I congratulate you on getting through this period, building your brand, building a story, building a strategy, and then building websites and social media to support that. I look forward to the next session together, and to remind you that it's not the strongest of the species that survive, but rather that which is most adaptable to change, said Mr. Charles Darwin. Next week, we're together, and I'm looking forward to this. So tell your friends, please, because we're going to have great tips, visual impact, how to build great stories, how to build the wow factor, how to get maximum return on that physical store investment, and how to lead your people to inspiring heights. Thanks again, everyone.
Thanks very much, Brian. And what a cracking session to get us off to a start with this webinar series. Heaps of information there for everyone to take away and look at, how they can integrate with their business. So that was a really fantastic start. And I thank all the team in bringing this together for the region. So thanks very much for everyone's attendance this morning. And by all means, it's the first session today. By all means, if you've got friends and business colleagues that you think could take some of this information away and get involved, send them through to us. Send them through to us to sign up for next week's session. And look forward to seeing you all there. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone. Great fun. See you next week.